Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Yarns with Andy. Today's going to be quite an exciting episode with Shane Brealey, the managing director of Simplicity Living. Shane, welcome. Thank you so much for making the time for being here.
Great to be here. Good to meet you. I've watched a lot of the pods. And, now on the receiving end.
Oh, you reckon you're on the receiving end, are you? Yeah?
Yeah.
What do you think of the previous pods?
Great. Very succinct, to the point. Our industry needs a lot of help. It needs guidance. It needs knowledge sharing. So, this is a great portal.
Yep.
Keep it up.
No, thanks, mate. Appreciate it. It's fucking hard work at the best of times, I'll tell you.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyways, tell us a little bit about yourself, briefly.
So I'm an engineer by training, civil engineer out of Canterbury University. Spent 15 years of my working life with corporates, Lend-Lease, Mirvac, Multiplex, and then had a patriotic moment. I went out and formed NZ Strong. And wanted to, just...
I read that in your profile. You started NZ Strong. It's pretty cool.
I think it was Ann Gibson called it a Brealey has Jerry Maguire moment, which is I'm having trouble shaking. And then founded and ran NZ Strong with my partner Jamie Valance, and we did very well.
You're still doing very well, I guess.
Yeah, they're coming up 20 years.
Pretty cool.
This month. So,
yeah, nice.
And fortunately, I got an invite.
Did you?
To it, so I feel one of the lucky ones.
Yeah.
And then got out of that. And had a year and a half off at the age of 52.
Why'd you get out of?
I was a bit frustrated with the state of the industry. It didn't matter how good we were as a designer and constructor. There were always, the PQS and the project manager and the clients, who it's, I facetiously say it's hard to fly like an eagle when you're surrounded by turkeys. And so we couldn't get any better than we were.
Yeah.
And in 10 years, we never had an extension of time claim, never had a dispute. We spent less than $10,000 on legal fees on $360 million worth of work. And so I thought I'd quit while I was ahead, after a decade.
Yeah. Mate, that's crazy stats for New Zealand.
It's crazy. Well, I'd come out of Multiplex. I'd come out of the role of MD at Multiplex.
Yeah.
We had a line item in our overheads of $500,000 for external legals and a full-time in-house lawyer. Crazy. So had that for a decade, spat the dummy, went and built a house out on Waiheke for my wife Anna and I, and then got frustrated after about a year and a half of that.
Of what, chilling?
Of chilling.
And chilling, fishing?
It was a lot of fun building the house. It was a lot of fun. Yeah, and a little bit of fishing.
Yeah.
And then decided, what if we were the client and the funder and the builder and ran some of the trades? How efficient could we be?
You just cut out all the middlemen and pissed the whole fucking industry
and made timely decisions, made sensible decisions. And I had friends from White Associates who were worried about me, losing my shirt because I'm an optimistic bugger by nature. And so they did a free cost plan for me. And we beat that by about 30%. And we did it 12 more times with NZ Living. And then sort of, another 7 years later of doing that, we were the largest Kiwi build home provider in the country. Wow. Yeah,
that's cool. And that's NZ Living?
That's NZ Living.
So now you've gotten out of NZ Living? Or are you still part of
NZ Living? And then about 3 years ago, life's a series of exciting chapters. So, you got to close one chapter to start a new exciting one. And so we gifted the company, NZ Living, which was going gangbusters. We're doing 250 odd homes at the time that we decided to wrap it up there. And so we gifted NZ Living to the members of Simplicity, the Kiwis saver crowd.
Right.
And so Sam Stubbs and Co.
Yeah.
And they had about 1.8 billion of funds under management, cool. 46,000 members, and had a sort of like a pioneering do good for New Zealand kind of ethos that we shared. And so to give it to that entity, which is a not-for-profit, it's owned by a charity, and it's there for the benefit of the members, we thought, what else better to do with your last useful decade of your life? Yeah. And so my wife Anna and I, we work pro bono.
That's cool.
And we pledged 10 years of that, and our company assets and people and everything transferred across. And we knew we had a special set of IP. What we were doing with NZ Living was pretty we were pioneering efficiencies that I didn't see anywhere else in the industry.
So you predominantly focused on house builds?
Yeah, they were mostly 3-story walk-ups.
Oh, yep.
And, most developers will sell for the most they can possibly get and build for as cheaply as they possibly can, and the difference goes to their pocket. Whereas we knew that we were deadly efficient at the construction side. So we knew that number, added a reasonable margin, and then sold our product at that level. So we sold in total for $30 million under valuation, the 700 homes that we built. So about $50,000 a home under valuation.
Oh, right.
And,
okay.
and we were selling out projects in minutes, literally minutes.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. All online, it's just awesome.
That's it. So that's where the whole dream for simplicity living comes in, and where your vision for 10,000 houses to be built.
Yeah,
in the
that's
next
right.
decade.
We knew we had the secret sauce,
Yep.
and simplicity, as I say, when we met, was 1.86 billion of funds under management. Today, about 7.4 billion. So we backed, another growing company, because you need big, you need a lot of money to build a lot of houses, because it's very hungry on equity. And so between, Sam and I met on the scaffolding of one of our projects in Northcote. And, we pledged to give them a decade in our company and let's go and do it.
Wow. Good on you, mate. Now, hats off to you, though. No.
We're having a lot of fun too.
Good.
It's very satisfying.
Yeah. So you were telling me some of your 3 key principles of how simplicity function. Can you tell us a bit more about what those key founding principles or driving principles are?
Yeah, so there are 3, and this was written in a strategic plan that we wrote back in 2021.
Yep.
Number 1, build 10,000 homes. Start with that, and then we'll see if we can go on and do more.
10,000 homes in 10 years, though.
That's right.
So I'm a planner. Time frame is very important.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And secondly, provide outsized returns for the investors and members of Simplicity, which in turn will drive more investment, which will enable us to build more homes. So those 2 are key. And the third one was freely share our IP.
Cool.
So that's one of the big 3. And so what we're doing here, and other activities around the country, we want to be the crash test dummy of the industry to show a light that is just irrefutably convincing that it cannot be ignored. There are a lot of shiny new solutions, and the magpie clients sort of try to find that thing. But when you're delivering it repeatedly, we've done 13 projects. They've all been 20 to 30 to 35% less cost and faster than the next best I can find in the country. So maybe we were lucky, maybe it's coincidence. I don't know, 13 times in a row.
Maybe, man, that's really, really cool. But I do want to dig into a bit more of what your secret sauce is.
Sure.
Shane, so we touched a little bit about simplicity living, and your mission is really, really cool. Hats off to you. So you don't like tendering work, you like negotiating work. Why is that?
Well, we can't afford to tender. The cost is too high.
There we go. Yeah.
And
what's
the
average cost of tendering?
Oh, it's somewhere around 30%. And we've proven that 13 times over, 13 major projects later.
So you working as a client, you put a tender out.
Yeah.
How many construction companies put a tender in?
Well, we don't tender anything.
You don't.
Yeah.
But when you've tested it.
Oh, this is back at NZ Strong Days.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Let's
So NZ Strong Days, anywhere between 3 and 9 subcontractors per trade.
Fucking hell. Right. So what's the cost of that, right? So cost of that, you as a main contractor, 3 to 9 people putting a bid in.
Yeah.
And all at substandard bids.
Yeah. The cost of the industry is huge.
But, and all in different formats, right? So how would you actually reconcile that bid?
Yeah. But the big cost is this.
Yes.
So for each of the 32 trades, and we've got roughly 32 trades for a major high-rise residential project, made up of about 4 different components of a similar size: materials, labour, off-site overhead and profit, and waste. And that waste isn't identified as its own element. It's actually spread amongst the other 3 because it always happens.
Yeah.
And so if you can convince your suppliers that that is unnecessary, you've still got your margin intact, your materials and your labour are all fine, we drop 25% approximately per trade. And if we go out and tender for some of our, we've negotiated a range of incumbent supplier prices. If we went out to an external other who didn't understand the way that we worked, their price would be somewhere in that 25% premium.
And that waste also includes the risk allowance that the subcontractor allows for, the fuck around factor.
Yeah, this job's going to be a stuff up like the last 50
course.
we've done is.
Or,
Is it going to be
or like 99.99% of
is
jobs
it
in
going
New
to be,
Zealand?
and so the only question is it going to be more of a stuff up or slightly less of a stuff up?
How much
There's
risk
no
am I
doubt
willing
it's
to
going to be
take?
a stuff up.
Yeah.
Because it always is.
Yeah.
Waiting
What do you
for
think? Why do you
instructions.
think that is, Shane?
Well, in part, and we're very different in that we've got a pipeline of work. So we can get people to come along for a pipeline of projects and get to understand us and get to understand the way that we work, and we can continually refine it, work on productivity.
And you give them continuity of work.
Yeah.
Throughout, and that's your supply chain. You take care of them.
Yep. Whereas
Cool.
most
Good on you.
clients, are doing a one-off, they're building prototypes, and they go out there and get PQSs and project managers to help them try to, work their way through that quagmire. And there are always inefficiencies. And our first project, again, was a learning exercise, but we quickly refined it, and then we've been able to benefit from it. Whereas most clients, most projects, most teams don't have that benefit of repeatability.
Yeah.
And so what I'm saying,
So you've developed a cookie cutter model that you want to keep replicating over and over again.
rather than cookie, how about we call it an Audi A8
Oh yeah.
or a Tesla Model 3 or something.
Whatever you want to call it, mate.
Yeah. So it's not it's a cookie cutter could be perceived as a, sort of like a boring, stamped out something or other. But as an Audi A8 electric car, a cookie cutter, that's a bloody good car that gets better all the time and is great value for money.
Yeah, fair enough.
And doesn't leak.
Yeah, no, I totally get your point. And when it's just the concept I was referring to as that you've templatized it.
Yes.
You've templatized your road to success.
Yeah.
Which is really, really cool. Yeah, back to the question. Why negotiate contracts?
Well, if you don't, there are a couple of efficiencies. One is you're not burdening the industry by all that pricing, of which only one party in each trade is successful. The rest is waste. But primarily because we know we want to work with that identified regular party every time because they get it. They understand that there is not the waste that they have to price for.
And our risk.
And the risk, that's right.
And they know you'll pay them? Because
well, that's another thing we do. We don't have any retentions.
Oh, really?
We don't have performance bonds. We have a 4-page subcontract agreement, and it's all negotiated. 4-page, and it's based on the master builder's, standard conditions, and that's it.
That's for any trade. That
All
works
trades.
That works with Simplicity Living.
Yep.
All of them.
Correct.
No special conditions in all of those?
No. Why would you do business with somebody you didn't trust?
No, hang on.
Yeah.
Let me keep going.
Yeah.
Do those 4 pages,
Yeah.
Are they just an extract of a master contract? Or is the 4 pages the contract?
The 4 pages are the project-specific details that reference back to a standard form of subcontract, a standard form of contract.
Okay. Yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah, but we never attach that. We never
But
refer to
do
it.
you vary the rules of that standard contract?
No.
Okay, so the 4 pages are only project-specific related information.
Correct.
And you don't actually vary a standard form of contract that you actually issue out.
No. We don't want to spend anything on
Fuck,
lawyers.
you might be the only fucking person in
and
New
no
Zealand doing that,
retentions,
mate.
right? Explain this to me. How are retentions a good idea?
It's not a great idea.
They add burden,
just,
administration. You got to put it in a separate bank account. Just give the guys the money.
Yeah, you're just locking in capital.
Yeah.
For a long period of time, which is then no use to anybody.
Yeah. And then a lot of subcontractors will get into the habit of, well, I don't actually know whether I'm going to get my retentions paid out. Will the main contractor, will the client still be around? And so they have to add that on top of their estimated cost of delivering the work because it may not come. And so you're paying for it regardless, whereas we don't have that.
It's really interesting. Shane, so if you're doing it and you're seeing so much success with this, why is the rest of New Zealand doing it?
This, the key word to explain it is trust. And there's a lack of trust.
There isn't any trust in the industry.
Yeah. And again,
mate, it's a complete red ocean out there.
It is.
Fucking dog eat dog for breakfast.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, dead
literally.
Right. Exactly.
Tell me I'm wrong.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely dead right. And that's why I got out of NZ Strong. And that's why, we've got staff that work for us that say if we ever stop doing business the way that we are, they can't go back to the old industry. they'd need to go and get a lawn mowing contract or something. They can't go back because they, if you take all that energy that's spent on the angst and the friction and they're trying to, defend yourself from being taken advantage of and all of that, and put it into planning and looking for more efficiencies and concentrating on productivity.
Yeah.
Boy, there's just a well of energy there.
Tell me about it. So you know much about what I do?
A little bit.
Okay. So I run strategic planning. I'm a project controls company, and I help companies do either tender programs, execution planning, just programmer works, right? Yeah. I developed the methodology, the strategy on how you deal with the building, do a full bill of quantities, identify production rates, who does what, where, when, and how much of it. That's my game, right? And then I kind of focus on change management and delay and dispute resolution.
Right.
So I've now pivoted my business in the last couple of years. May not be great for my cash flow, but it's great for the long run, to focus more on tender planning.
Right.
Because we as a business believe that we can fix a lot of the industry's problems if we get the program right in the first instance.
Yeah.
You can manage change better. You can track your progress better. You can communicate more effectively. I choose my words very carefully. Communicate effectively with your various stakeholders. And you're never going to end up, or I'd never say never, but the chances of you ending up in a massive dispute is drastically reduced. The amount of money you invest in a tender.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That sounds good.
That's kind of
essential.
That's what we focused on as a business. And we're bringing in like full on tech innovation to kind of bridge in to assist that entire pipeline of work. Shane, so given all that we've spoken about, you said you actually don't see yourself as a builder.
No.
What do you see yourself as?
Well, you
build houses.
Yeah, but we're producing houses. When you change and we're production managers, we're not construction managers. So our language has changed. We are servants to the pursuit of productivity gains, and we're servants to our subcontractors and suppliers. So as the client and as the main contractor, we are laying the materials at the feet of our subcontractors and helping them.
What do you mean by that?
Well, for example, an apartment fit out, has got 15 fit out trades in it. They all have their own requirements for hardware. We put the hardware into a plastic box. We know exactly how many screws, how many nuts and bolts, how many bits of tape and all the hardware bits that are needed to build that apartment.
So you've done a standardized design and you've done a detailed takeoff.
We've got 8 or 9 different apartment typologies. We give a little bit of margin for it, but then the guys aren't having to go downstairs to get more, spare parts that might be missing. So
so you're telling me you preload the floor?
Preload the floor.
With the fit-out material required?
Yeah.
And you supply the material?
Yep. So, yes, we do. Yes, we do.
So you don't ask your sub-trades to actually procure anything?
It depends on the trade. So the kitchens, for example, they bring the joinery in.
Yeah, joinery, that's fine.
But we are there to support them being as efficient as they possibly can. Things like strapping and lining on walls. You usually have a piece of timber, 70 by 35, and you drill that into the wall, and then the electrician has to come and drill in behind it and create pathways for their wires. We pack it off 20 millimeters, so he never has to drill again, and he can just feed his cabling around. So we're thinking together with our subcontractors. So the mindset of a tender type subcontractor on a main contractor's site is, I've got to try to defend my margin. I've got to try to make $1. I've got to not have contract claims slapped against me and all that negative stuff. Our guys get up in the morning and their first thought is, how am I going to impress today? Because their profit is already set aside. They know it's going to be there. They've done it before. It's a fair and reasonable profit. They're never going to have to chase payments because they get paid in full on the 20th of every month.
Just like every construction company. Yep.
And so now it's a contest. Who can come up with the smartest innovation that is going to save time? Another quick example is we've got concrete walls and a concrete slab. So in a multi-unit residential, concrete is a very efficient product. It does fire, acoustics, structure, bracing, a whole range of things with the one product. And so we were drilling into those walls to put our strapping and lining. We were drilling into the concrete slab above to hang our sprinklers and ducts and ceiling hangers and so on. Now we do those 2 tasks before the concrete goes in. So we've got a permanent formwork system with a sheet of 9mm ply. It's easier to drill into air, through that ply, put the screw fixings in there, the same with the tray deck slab above, before the concrete goes in. Health and safety-wise, you haven't got all that horrible cementous dust sort of floating around. And so all of our fixings are in place before we put the concrete in the
So
walls.
wait, help me understand that. So you've got a tray deck.
Yeah.
So before you put your real concrete onto the tray deck on the floor above, on the floor below,
Yep.
you get your hangers and put your sprinklers on.
Yeah.
That's
And then the
interesting.
concrete gets cast around and vibrated around all of the fixings. So there is no drilling into concrete.
I mean, yeah, you are drilling into your tray deck, which is a lot easier than drilling into concrete.
Yeah.
It just takes you a lot less time.
And the cost.
Well, why don't more people do that?
I know, it's just that's the sort of thing you can come up with when you're free to think about productivity
absolutely.
gains rather than
100%.
defending yourself from the jungle.
Here's another example I'll give you. This is something maybe you can take away and look at. It's a product called MedSec. Have you heard about it?
No, I haven't.
So I've got a few contracts in the UK now, so I'm learning how the people in the UK build houses. Because if you actually think about it, UK building in the UK, high rises, they've always got very little room for like material movement. And you and I both know the quickest way to build a building is move your materials around quicker, move your people around quicker. You build a building quicker. It's not fucking rocket science there.
That's right.
It's not. So anyway, because they're so constrained, the amount of emphasis they put on their methodology is insane, and I love it. It's such a good learning platform for me.
Yeah.
So I came across this product called MedSec, and I did a whole bunch of research on what MedSec is. So they put up the entire steel frame. Let's say it's a steel structural steel building. This mainly only works in a structural steel building, and they come up with this weird kind of secondary steel frame that they come and slot into place that acts as a cladding panel, secondary steel, right? That you can hang your actual cladding panel off and your windows on, but you can create another sheet to create a waterproof layer.
Right.
So you get into your fit out a lot quicker.
Yeah, it becomes your rain screen straight off.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so it's a very, very smart secondary steel panel, and you can install it with very minimum effort, which is quite cool, I thought.
Yeah.
There's something for you to explore.
Yeah.
It's called MedSec. So check
MedSec.
it out.
I'll have a look.
METSEC. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's another idea.
There you go.
Yeah. So, sorry, mate. Yeah. So I don't know. We went a little bit off topic. So
That's all right.
let's rein it back in a little bit. So productivity in New Zealand is, so in your opinion, productivity in New Zealand in the construction sector, in comparison to other countries, where do you think we stand?
I don't know if it's that much better or worse. And I've spent a bit of time in the last 6 months over in Scandinavia, UK, Ireland, Canada, Australia, the last couple of months. And, sure, we've got frustrations with our planning on site. We've got frustrations with our inspection regime. But I think the worst part of our industry is it's a cottage industry. And this pyramid contracting.
Yeah.
So you might get a main contractor who then has a subcontractor who has a labour-only subcontractor, and then maybe another layer after that. That, to me, is the biggest weakness of our market, is the lack of maturity in some of those big performers. The vertically integrated model.
And you know the problem with that? It's margin on margin on margin.
Yeah. Well, and
right from your fifth or sixth layer down, how your price gets built up is margin on margin on margin on margin.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
So here's a philosophy I've got, is that people are constantly trying to buy out the risk. So I want to de-risk it. I want a fixed price lump sum contract, and not that even exists, because it's only a fixed price lump sum on the assumptions of today, but tomorrow that's going to change.
Yeah.
But people are always trying to get rid of the risk. Risk is a 4-letter word.
That's it.
So's gold. And we see risk as gold.
Yeah.
And as soon as you bundle something up, you turn your back on it, and then you stop looking for productivity gains. And so, say you get 4 prices for whatever, and you take the lowest of the 4. You think that you've got the best value out of it.
No, you haven't.
You haven't. And then you turn your back on it.
You just completely set yourself up for a great dispute. That's common.
Yeah. And the other thing is you've turned your back on it because you put a ribbon around it, you bundled it up. Okay, I don't need to worry about that trade anymore. But you stop looking at it. And when you stop looking at it, like, if you take a labour-only charge-up type of thing, you care about every hour. And so you're focused on it. And then you go and find that gold. So buying out the risk, to me, is one of the biggest shortcomings of our market. And the project management
And that all
community,
leads back into our procurement model, doesn't it?
yeah. Well, it starts with the clients and their project manager advisors and the
And the
PQSs.
PQSs.
And it just does my head. And that's why they're $5,000 to $6,000 a square
so
meter.
let's just jump into the next segment straight away, right?
Yeah.
So you don't use, let me get this straight. You don't use PQSs and project managers.
No.
Tell me why. I'm really intrigued. Tell me why.
Well,
The rest of the industry use them.
yeah. And
Yeah,
if
and-
you're building prototypes and
Yeah.
you're not an informed client, then those two roles are essential because you need a guiding hand through it. So we're an informed client. We know a bit about construction, so we don't need the project manager. The PQS will only tell you what the last stuff up cost. And his estimate will be based on the assumption that this is going to be another stuff up. And so what sort of basis for starting a project is that? Whereas we think from first principles, time, which is, and cost and materials and labor and a reasonable margin equals what it should cost. So we're always doing that first principles analysis. And, like I've had stand-up arguments in rooms with PQSs who tell me that Tradeck flooring 180 thick is $190 a square metre. I go, well, mate, I've just bought 5 hectares of it in the last 5 years, and I can tell you that it's about $97. So how come you're twice? And the reason he's twice is that a tendered price for that trade is always about $197, but the true cost is actually about $97. The Tradeck's $62. The propping, the Rio, you can add it all up. The concrete, it's only 110 mil average thickness, and then you're placing and all of that. It comes to about $97.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's where the industry using data from previous poorly performing projects has extrapolated to what their knowledge base is and what the next project should cost.
But that's not definitely the right thing to do. That's not driving innovation. That's not driving positive change. That's driving fuck all in the industry.
You'll never improve productivity if that's your benchmark.
So I'll tell you. So I share the same frustration as you, but you look at it from a building perspective. I look at it from a very setting up a project to succeed perspective. And that's why we went, and pretty similar to you. We're like, okay, we actually developed a tool to pretty much put every estimator out of business.
Yeah.
So we said, we'll take a 3D model. And I taught myself how to code in Python, by the way, which is quite cool. Me and a bunch of other people that I work with and a couple of mentors along the way, which is quite cool. And we take a 3D file, strip it into a 2D file, and actually inject information into that and create something called an interactive bill of quantity. So if your 3D model is right, with a click of a button, I can get all your asset classifications, whatever you're building, your asset classification, and 3 levels of location breakdown. So what did I tell you in the beginning that I do for a living, right? Who does what, where, when, and how much for it?
Yep.
Okay. So if I've got my asset classification, I've got my location breakdown, work area breakdown, and I've got all my quantities.
Yeah. One of the other traps in our industry is people are trying to break down a trade, like for example a concrete wall system. We've got an in situ concrete wall system.
Yeah.
And we can show people how we build it, but we self-perform with our own labor doing the formwork, the Rio tying, the propping and all of those trades. And we've got friends in the industry, people from our old company, old NZ Strong or wherever they might be nowadays, and they take our exact system, they put it into their way of estimating, and it comes out at 60-70% more expensive than we have just built, 700 apartments with.
Yeah.
Because they break it up. They go for a fixed price lump sum Rio supply and install.
Yeah. And then obviously the guy who's actually providing the price is going to base it on previous jobs on very similar types and add the margin on it and add the risk on it.
That's right.
It just keeps going and going and going, and then the margin on the margin on the margin plays
50 or 60% risk. But
then the client loses every single time.
Yep.
But here's the thing: our system is actually set up to ensure that your PQSs and the project management companies ensure that the clients fail.
And they're doing
If
all
you
right.
actually had to put it simply, yeah.
Well, that's the that's the weird thing.
It is.
They aren't inclined to change it because they're all doing just fine.
Nah,
Thank you very
hang on.
much.
They're not doing just fine, mate. I'll tell you what they're doing.
They've got the snouts in the trough.
Mate, the project management companies in Auckland or wherever in New Zealand, the ones in central Auckland, every project management company office, if you actually walk into their office and you cannot see the harbour bridge or you can't see into the water, fuck man.
Yeah.
It's every single project management company's office, you can actually see the harbour bridge. They go views of the harbour bridge.
Yeah.
How?
Yeah.
I'm still sitting in my garage.
Yeah. And so we don't bother with them. We've just
good on you, man.
Yeah.
Good on you. Like I think New Zealand needs to
add any
shift away
value.
from that market. They don't.
No, they don't add any value to the way we think and the way we perform.
Well, they possibly could be a way they're adding value, but not in the current setup. I don't think they're adding value in the current setup.
Well, they don't get it.
They don't.
They don't get
it. They don't get the bigger picture. For them, it's all about bums on seats.
Yeah.
And it's about cashing in the billable hours.
Yeah. So here's
Tell me
another
wrong.
one. One of their big revenues is setting up meetings.
Oh,
and,
100%.
And putting out the minutes and then having action lists and all that.
You know what? ChatGPT can do that for you now.
Yeah. Well, there's
Claude AI can do that for you.
well, there's even a better solution than that.
Go on.
Just don't have a meeting.
Yeah, cool.
So
Have a phone call.
we don't have meetings.
You don't?
No,
What
because
do you
we've got the
guys do?
same team. They all get it. We don't need a meeting.
Yeah.
If somebody's got a question or an issue, then they ask it of the party that's involved. But they all, it's like a sports team. They all know each other's moves. They know each other. They've worked on 6 projects together. So, we've got the privilege of having familiar players working on a pipeline of work. So again, that's a distinct advantage.
That used to be the Fletcher concept, eh?
Yep.
That's
right.
that's how
remember it.
Fletcher's.
Peter Niven and Ivan Vuksic and those guys.
Yeah.
Right.
That used to be the Fletcher concept where the core structural team moved from project to project, set it up, and
Dead right.
then followed along by the fit out team. But then Fletcher's changed that concept and got in all sorts of trouble.
That's right.
Yeah.
They used to be good.
I used to be amazing, I heard.
Yeah.
I never had the privilege of working with them, but my career took off at the downturn of Fletcher's, but unfortunately. But I learned a lot. It's the most important thing. Anyways, that's quite interesting, mate. It's really, really insightful, Let's figure out how to get rid of all the QSs, PQSs, and this may not be a very fucking famous podcast. Eh? People are going to give us shit online. Yeah. Nah.
Yeah.
All right.
No, seriously, we have 1.5 meetings per project.
1.5 meetings per project.
Yeah. So
Holy
we
shit.
have 1 or possibly 2. So this is a 2-year project.
Can I ask you another question? How many RFIs do you get raised?
How many site instructions? How many variations? Oh, maybe there's a dozen.
Dozen variations?
On a $200 million project.
You don't get RFIs?
Yeah.
Do you know what New Zealand's standard for RFIs is?
No idea.
It's on a commercial project. It's about 1 RFI per working day raised by the construction team on a not a design and a build job on a build only NZ3910 contract.
Yeah.
Your average is about 1 RFI per working day.
Yeah. Well, it's probably 2 FTEs if you take both sides of that equation.
Not 2. It's way more than that.
It's probably more.
Way more than that. So the guy who raises the RFI, the design team that actually doesn't want to deal with the RFI because they've now moved on to another job and they don't have the time to deal with that RFI.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then now all of these RFIs getting stacked up and works on site stalling.
Yeah.
Because now then the design team get involved and they don't know how to fucking prioritize the RFIs. They're fucking losing it. Then the project managers get involved and go, oh, throwing all their toys and going, we need to fucking sort these RFIs out. Otherwise, we're going to get delay claims. See, it's fucking snowball effect, eh?
It's a job creation scheme.
Ah, yeah. Sounds like it.
So our project's sort of $150, $200 million size.
Yeah.
We have 5 to 6 full-time equivalents driving those projects.
That's it.
In Australia, the same size project would be 20 to 25 people. In the UK, 30 to 40 people.
Wow.
On client side and main contractor side.
So you've stripped all the waste down and you brought it down to 5 people.
Yeah.
I need to come visit you guys and see what you guys do, eh?
Oh, I think you'll be surprised.
Yeah. There's a lot of learnings there.
So, Andy, I really admire what you're doing here because the industry needs more knowledge, needs good examples, needs to share and interact more. How on earth are we going to get through to this industry to turn it around from its woeful current state? It really is in bad shape.
It's in horrible shape. But thank you though. Appreciate the acknowledgement. I really do, because running a podcast is hard work. I'll
Keep
tell you
it
that
up.
much. It's a fucking lifestyle. But yeah, the industry is in bad shape. I'm not going to disagree. But I guess we need to talk about it more and bring the critical problems to light, Because if you look at a job site to job site, there's no interaction between two job sites, even within the same company. You know, that was one of my key drivers to actually start the podcast and go, because I have the privilege of walking into multiple job sites in different companies, but they were all facing the same problems. But there's no common platform to actually talk about these problems and bring these problems to light, you know. But if I sit here and just keep going on about I went to this job site, I found this problem, we're gonna get fucking bored with it. So that's part of the reason this whole podcast is to bring industry experts to actually talk about the critical issues. I'm not going to solve all of them. I'm not Jesus, you know. I'm not going to solve all the problems, but at least there's an opportunity to bring it to light.
Yeah,
I think that's very crucial.
And are you seeing any support from this government, or do you know whether we're likely to see any support? Is it a centralized thing, or does the industry need to come up with its own solutions?
So government, right? They set up the construction accords, right? I think enough said at that point. Yeah. 4 years, and the best they could do was come up with a language review of NZ 3910. Yeah. They didn't even look to other forms of contracts to go, right, can we actually look internationally to bring in forms of contracts in New Zealand that is fair, that, you know, we spoke a lot about risk attribution and the transfer risk or buying out the risk, right? Because NZ 3910 completely promotes the transfer risk right down to the subcontractor. Known fact, right? The PM companies and the PQSs, their main job is to push that risk downhill. Fucking known fact, right? This is where the current status of our industry is. For as long as we carry on like this, I don't think we'll change. No. There has to be a catalyst for change. What is that catalyst for change? I thought the Accords was it. I couldn't have been more wrong. Like, I fully supported that initiative, and I went, fuck it, there's something great going to come out of this for the construction industry, right? The Accords are dead now, gone.
Yeah.
So what's next? Where's the governmental support?
And there was a productivity commission under the previous government.
Oh, was it?
And so, you know,
I don't know about that.
Yeah, well, I saw them present at one business roundtable type thing.
Yeah,
but never heard from them professionally. You know, and I've been on Brands board.
Have you?
And you know, I had 6 years of that and Master Builders. But so a government funded. So where is that funding going? What are they actually making?
Now, I'll tell you what, though. Every time they set up a commission like this, it's just a bunch of people getting together and having a chat. There's nothing more, Shane. I might get yelled at for saying that, but that is the goddamn truth. Like, where's the positive change coming out? Where's the action plan? You know, you might come up with a beautiful circular drawing and say, this is what we're going to do. But where are you actually doing that?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, so here's my views, though. I don't think any of these commissions and all of that and all of these beautiful little accords that we set up ain't going to solve the problem, mate. I think there's one thing that will, though. I strongly believe this. Is digitalization. Yeah, whether we like it or not, AI is here to stay. Not going away.
Well, every other sector is using it.
Everybody
to the max, but we are the dinosaur of industries.
100%. You know why, though? Because we've got such disparate data. We've got so many different software systems stored in different databases, and even we can't make sense of it.
Yeah.
How is AI going to make sense of it? You know? So digitalization is the future, and the race is who's going to adapt and adopt digitalization and actually make it work for them quicker. Would come out on top. It's my honest opinion, though.
Yeah, I think the digitization needs to be accompanied with a change of culture, and you know, the way we work together needs to go hand in hand with it.
Yeah, you can't go up to a concrete site and say, tell a guy to pop a concrete pillar anymore. You know, it's not the world we live in.
No, that's right. Just harden up.
Yeah,
I know it well.
Yeah, ain't gonna work. You know, I mean, collaboration is the key. I agree. Yeah.
So one of the big purposes that we've got is to provide irrefutable data, hard evidence over multiple projects that demonstrate that there is a better way. And, you know, we've got this productivity hub on our projects. We've had 870 people through since July from government, brands, Kaingora, architects, engineers, builders, subcontractors, developers, and they can see the hard data. And you get the client saying, I want some of that. Whatever that cost per square metre, I want that in my feasibility. But then they leave the hub, they go back to their normal daily lives, and their PQS or their project manager or their builder go back to the old ways of just shoveling the risk onto others.
Oh, 100%.
And then they can't achieve
okay,
it.
so how do you cut out the middleman?
Well, yeah, the first thing you need is a pipeline. So, that's our distinct advantage.
Well,
and you
how
need
do
a
you
team.
how do you then get a pipeline when you've got governments that change every 3 years, and every 3 years you put jobs on hold, and then you rebrand the same jobs and re-release them into the market? Where are you going to get a pipeline?
There's
How?
an abundance of, like our country is an emerging country. We've got an abundance of need. We need
agree.
schools, we need hospitals, we need libraries, we need roads, we need bridges, we need houses, and everything in between.
Absolutely no dispute there.
So, and I came very close to getting to this point at NZ Strong. I was going to go into being one of 4 tenderers, understanding where the project budget was, and just go in and say, I'll give you a fixed price lump sum turnkey at 10% less than that, because I reckon your delivery model is 20% waste. And so let's go halves in the tens. And so if you can get a vertically integrated team from designers through to the main contractors, builders, all the experts you need, the subcontractors, I reckon you could smash this construction industry in New Zealand. If you work together repeatedly.
100%.
You know and trust and you work together.
I would, if I was setting up a job in New Zealand for myself, say I was starting a building company, the first thing I'd do is I'd get my designer, if I had a project management company and a QS, and my builder sitting in the same office on fucking site. There's no need for you to sit in your office and do other things. My job, you're working on my job, I'm paying for your time, you sit on my side. And you work together in the same office. You don't raise RFIs, you walk over to the other person if you have a question about constructability.
If you have those repeat relationships, that's the key to it.
That is 100%.
Whether you're on site or off site, I'm not sure it's as critical, but
no. I think that's crucial.
Yeah.
Putting them on site where you're actually building the site would make a world of a difference.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it'll make a world of a difference, but somebody's got to try it, I suppose. There's another idea for you.
Yeah. Well, I think KO tried that design office thing, and I'm not sure about that.
No?
Well, you end up getting the, when it starts, you get the A, performers, and then you realise that you're getting paid for bums on seats. So you go to Bs and your Cs and your As go out and win the, the new work. And so, and that's where KO landed. They ended up with the C graders sitting in a design office. Sure, there might have been a sprinkle of experts, but the majority, and
didn't really work out.
Well, we all talk in the industry. We know these people. We know what they were doing. These consultant companies owners, we know what they were doing.
Oh, the construction industry is so incestuous. Everybody knows everybody.
No secrets. Yeah.
Anyways, mate, I think that's been a great, passionate conversation, and I really do appreciate everything you do in Simplicity, and I'd love the opportunity to come and visit your office and see your innovation hub and share some ideas, and because I'm pretty similar to you, I love innovating and sharing ideas with the industry. Make the industry a smarter, faster, better place. So,
well, you've got the right mindset, so you'll get it. Whereas a lot of people just shake their heads; they don't see it. They're just looking for a cheaper way of doing things, rather than starting with getting the fundamentals right, and the
100%.
price will look after itself.
Anyways, mate, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you being here.
Good to meet you, Andy.
Yeah. All right, mate. Hopefully we'll catch up soon.
Okay. Bye.